What to do, guys? Bless up. Back for another video. Going to be reading a little bit of the book that I talked about on the last video, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families by Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey. Just going to browse, probably read maybe 3 or 4 pages, and video probably be about probably 10 to 12, maybe 15 minutes long. Um, this is a really good book. You probably, at first I was a little like, but after I've kind of read a little bit of it, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Um, and the book was written probably 10 to 12 years ago, or whatever, but pretty good stuff. So I'm gonna read about 4 or 5 pages. Family, I always say family is so important. So that's one of my passions. So that's what I talk about. Sometimes it's a Bible study, which is, of course, important to stay in the Word, but also family and studying and reading about that is also important to develop those healthy habits. So, anyway, I'm going to read about 5 pages. So let's going to start, and this is particularly page 139 in the book, and it's a book about probably 300 and about 360 some pages, give or take. Okay, it says. This woman was profoundly influenced. This woman was profoundly influenced by a regular family time. As she was growing up and um, has passed this legacy on to her children. Think about the difference this will make to her children as their family tries to navigate through a turbulent, family unfriendly environment. That's true. A weekly family night is something we've had as part of our own family from the beginning. When the children were very small, we used it as a time of deep communication and planning for the two of us. As they got older, we used the time to teach them, to play with them, and to involve them in fun and meaningful activities and family decisions. There have been times when one of us or one of the children could not be there, but for the most part, we try to always set aside at least one evening a week as family time. On a typical family night, when we would review our calendar on upcoming events, so everyone would know what we was doing, what was going on. Then we'd hold a family council and discuss issues and problems. We'd each give suggestions, and together we'll make decisions. Often we would have a talent show where the kids would show us how they were coming along with their music or dance lessons. Then we'd have a short lesson and family activity. Oh, excuse me, guys. Then we'll have a short lesson and a family activity and serve refreshments. We would also pray together and sing one of our favorite songs, Love at Home by John McNaughton. John Hugh McNaughton. I don't know who that is. Anyway, in this way, we would accomplish what in this way we would accomplish what we have come to feel are the four main ingredients of a successful family time: planning, teaching, problem solving, and having fun. You don't and I wrote the notes on the side of this particular part. Don't have to be perfect, but it needs to happen. Back to the book. Notice how this one structure can meet all four needs: physical, social, mental, and spiritual, and how it can become a major organizing element in the family. But family time doesn't have to be that involved, especially at first. If you want, you can just begin to do some of the things at a special family dinner. Use your imagination, make it fun. After a while, family members will begin to realize they are receiving nourishment in more ways than one, and it will be easier to hold more involved family time. People, particularly little children, long for family experiences. That make them feel close to one another. They want a family in which things like this in your family. Let's see. They want a family. They want a family in which people demonstrate that they care about one another. Also, the more often you do things like this in your family, the easier it will become. and you cannot begin to imagine the positive impact this will have on your family. A friend of mine did his doctoral dissertation on the effect of holding family meetings on the self-image of children. Although his children showed the positive effect was significant, one unanticipated and surprising result was the positive effect that holding such meetings had on fathers, and that's very important actually. He tells us one father who felt very he tells us of one father who felt very inadequate and was initially reluctant to try to hold such meetings, but after 3 months, the father said this: "Growing up, my family didn't talk much except to put each other down and to argue. I was the youngest, and it seemed as if everyone in the family told me that I couldn't do anything right. I guess I believed them, so I didn't do much in school. It got so I didn't even have enough confidence to try anything that took any brains. I didn't want to have the family nights because I didn't feel I could do it. But after my wife led a discussion one week and my daughter another week, I decided to try one myself. It took a lot of courage for me to do it, but once I got started, it was like something turned loose in me that had been tied up in a painful knot ever since I was a little boy. Words just seemed to flow out of my heart. I told members of my family why I was so glad to be their dad and why I knew they could do good things with their lives. Then I did something I had never done before. I told them all one by one how much I loved them. For the first time I felt like a real father. The kind of father I wish my father had been. Wow, very powerful. Since that night, I have felt much closer to my wife and kids. It's hard to explain what I mean, but a lot of new doors have opened for me and things at home seem different now. That's a pretty cool little part. Weekly family time provide powerful, proactive response to today's family challenge. And like I said, this book was written over 12 years ago, give or take. So if it's a family challenge environment 12 years ago, with the advent and the creation of social media, even on another level, that challenge is even more. It's even more of a challenge, should I say? Anyway, let's continue, guys. Weekly family time provide a powerful, proactive response to today's family challenge. They provide a very practical way to prioritize the family. The time commitment itself tells the children how important the family is. They build memories, they build emotional bank accounts, they help you create your own family safety net. They also help you meet several fundamental family needs: physical, economic, social, mental, aesthetic, cultural, and spiritual. I have taught this idea now for over 20 years, and many couples and single parents have said that family time is enormously valuable and practical take home idea. They say it has the most profound effect on family prioritization, closeness, and enjoyment of any family idea that they have ever heard. Let's continue. That was pretty good. That's very, very good. I really want to read this one, but I'm going to skip that and skip that. And let's read this little part. I was going to skip this as well, but I underlined quite a bit, so let's skip this as well. And in this, it's another little passage I'm going to read before this that says, "If we do not teach our children, society will, and they and we will have to live with the results." That's a very powerful point. Anyway, let's continue, guys. A woman from Denmark shared this experience. And I like this one because it's very real. I mean, this is stuff nobody likes to talk about, but let's hit on it. "In our home, we try to get together almost weekly since our children were small. We have used this meeting for many different purposes. Occasionally, these meetings have been the forum for us to lay out cards on the table, tell the kids our struggles and our lives and how to tackle them. One time, my husband lost his job, so we used this time in our meeting to explain what had happened. We showed them the money we had in the bank account, and we explained that it usually took 6 months to find a new job. We showed them how we needed to divide the money into 6 groups, one for each month. We divided each month's money into what would be needed for food, house payment, gas, electricity, and so on. In this way, they could clearly see where the money was going and how little was left. They could have panicked if it wasn't for the fact that we told them it was going to be a challenge and we could make it. But we wanted them to see where the money would go. We wanted to avoid breaking their hearts over and over again because we couldn't afford new clothes or entertainment. We then discussed how stressful this responsibility was for their dad and what we could do at home to de-stress him. We decided to remove all irritation spots, such as leaving school bags, coats, and shoes on the floor, and keep the house clean. They all agreed, and we felt united in this difficult process that was ahead of us. During the following 6 months, we baked a lot of cookies to cheer us up. We didn't participate in anything that cost money. And this time the cost of living is even more expensive than it was 12 years ago. That's a very interesting point. Anyway, during the following 6 months, we baked a lot of cakes to cheer us up. We didn't participate in anything that cost money or purchase things other than the bare necessities. The kids continually tried to cheer up their dad, telling him they knew he would get a job soon. They went out of their way to show their confidence in him because we all knew from experience that this would be an area that he would struggle in. When he finally got a new job, the children's joy was almost greater than ours, and the celebration was one we won't soon forget. I cannot begin to tell you the list of headaches we avoided because we took time to sit down with them and explain our situation and what it would take to get through it. That was powerful, very, very powerful. Family time is a wonderful time for problem solving, and it is. It's a time to address fundamental needs, work together to find ways to meet them. It is an opportunity to involve family members in problems and work out solutions together so that we all understand it, so that we all feel the solution represents us and we are committed to them. So I thought that was a powerful little point. Let's continue. All right. And I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up about 12 minutes. So yeah, I said about 15 minutes. So this little excerpt is titled "Making the Connection." Like I said, I'm just kind of going through little parts that stood out. Making the connection. Perhaps you remember have seen in more recent video or movie the film clip showing the lunar voyage of Apollo 11. Those of us who witnessed it were absolutely transfixed. We could hardly believe our eyes when we saw men walking on the moon. Superlatives such as fantastic and incredible were inadequate to describe those eventful days. Where do you think most power and energy was expended on that heavenly journey? Going 250,000 miles to the moon, returning to Earth, orbiting the moon, separating and redocking the lunar and command modules, lifting off from the moon. No, not in any of those. Not even in all of those together. It was lifting off from the Earth. More energy was spent in the first few minutes of liftoff from the Earth in the first few miles of travel than was used in 500,000 miles for several days. The gravity pull of these first few miles was enormous. The Earth's atmosphere was surprisingly heavy. It took an internal thrust greater than both the pull of gravity and the resistance of atmosphere to finally break out into orbit. But once they did break out, it took almost no power to do all those other things. In fact, when one of the astronauts was asked how much power was expended when the lunar module separated from the command module, I guess I'm saying it right, to go down and survey the moon, he said, less than the breath of a baby. The lunar voyage provides a metaphor for describing what it takes to break out of old habits and create new ones, such as having weekly family time. The gravity force of the Earth could be compared to deeply embedded habits, tendencies programmed by genetics, environment, parents, and other significant figures. The weight of the Earth's atmosphere could be compared to the turbulent, family-unfriendly environment of the water culture, the water society. These two powerful forces, and you must have collectivized social will that is stronger than both of these forces in order to make lift off happen. But once this happens, you will be amazed at the freedom it gives you or your family. During liftoff, astronauts have no freedom, no power. All they can do is carry out the program. But as soon as they pull away from gravity of the Earth and the atmosphere surrounding the Earth, they experience an unbelievable surge of freedom. And they have many, many options and alternatives. As the great American philosopher, psychologist William James suggested, when you are attempting to make a change, you need to make the resolve deep. Seize the first moment of initiative to act on that resolve and allow no exceptions. The most important thing is to make the commitment to do it. Once a week, no matter what, we will have family time together. If you can, set aside a specific night to do it. Schedule it on your family calendar. You may have to change that night occasionally if something really urgent comes up, but if this happens, immediately reschedule it for another time during the week. You'll have a much better chance of doing this on a regular basis if you set aside a specific night of the week. Furthermore, you want to communicate to your children the importance of a specific family time when they're little, before the onslaught of the teenage social agenda. And no matter what happens in your family meetings, don't get discouraged. I think that's very important too, because it's never like the books. You got your 2-year-old hollering, your 5-year-old cussing. You have all these things going nuts. Anyway, no matter what happens in your family meeting, don't get discouraged. We've had family meetings where 2 of our 9 children, teenage sons, of course, were sprawled on the couch asleep. Some of the other ones was climbing the walls. We've had meetings that basically started out as a big fight and ended up in prayer. We've had meetings where people were being so noisy, so disrespectful, that we said, okay, we've had it. You come and get us when you're ready to meet, and walked out. Usually they asked us to stay. When we did leave, we always came back and later and apologized. The point I'm trying to make is it's not always easy, and it's not usually convenient. Sometimes you even wonder whether your children are getting anything out of it. In fact, you may not be able to see real results for years. But it's like the story of a man in a railroad station in St. Louis who accidentally moved a small piece of railroad track a mere 3 inches. As a result, the train that was supposed to arrive in Newark, New Jersey, ended up in a station in New Orleans, Louisiana, some 1,300 miles away. Any change, even a tiny one, in the direction today will make significant difference of miles down the road. I will highlight these few examples, and then we will end it. So we'll probably be done in about 25 minutes. Okay, and this is the author's daughter, to both of his daughters, giving their view of how important it was. It says, I remember times when we would have our weekly family meetings, and Sean and David were lying on the couch sound asleep. Catherine would be saying, my boyfriend's trying to call and we've got the phone off the hook. I'm sure at the time my parents wondered, are they getting anything out of these meetings? His other daughter, Catherine, said, I remember being difficult in those meetings sometimes, but I grew up and I left home, and I often thought about specific things I learned. They made a real difference in my life. And that's very encouraging to me, because now I look at my own children and think, are they getting anything from this? And I realize that even though it sometimes seems as if they're not, they really are. Foundations are being laid that will make a huge difference down the road. Just the fact that we're doing it, that we're trying, is tremendously important. We've held weekly meetings in our family for over 30 years now. And as I look back and as I talk with our grown children about this experience, I am absolutely convinced that it has been one of the most powerful, one of the most significant forces in keeping our family on track. Like I said, guys, this is the seven habits of highly effective families. So I'll probably be making videos periodically on this book, and maybe even some other books I have, because I got quite a few. Take care, guys, and have a blessed day.